Hey guys, this is my first gear review. I am reviewing the climbing technology Alpine up. I haven't found any reviews in the UK yet of this Belay device, hence why I'm making one. It's a device made by Climbing Technology, which is an Italian made brand. It's their newest Belay device, superseding their original Click Up, which is a lot smaller, designed for sport belaying more than anything. This device is designed to do anything that a tubular device such as the Petzl Reverso or the ADC Guide would do, as well as featuring their Click Up technology through the centre bit, allowing double ropes, although I don't know why you'd ever use it on a double rope. First of all, initial impressions when I ordered it. Price was €79. I had to buy it in from Germany, which is because there's no UK supplier for for this climbing technology item as far as I could find, and I tried several climbing shops to find that. So it's quite hard to actually get your hands on that. In total, it cost me €100, including shipping fee, which works out about £80, which is a little bit more than any other belay device on the market. Visually, I mean, it comes with a specifically designed carabiner by Climbing Technology for that, which is designed to fit with this quite well. And also you might notice it's quite big. Now, when I was looking on a lot of the forums, the first thing that people said, it looks really big and heavy. Now, if I could just compare it to that of a Petzl Grigri, the original one, not the Grigri 2, size difference, barely any difference at all. Weight difference, I think actually it's a little bit lighter. The only thing is it's a little bit wider, but not substantially, as you can see. So size and weight, not really that much of a consideration. Also, there's less moving parts, it's just one kind of piece, which is obviously very good. But what did surprise me was all the adverts, initial gear reviews for this by the Italian Climbing Technology company, and there's a couple of subtle differences. For example, there's now a lever on the back, which there wasn't any of the videos of it at like the climbing outdoor show, etc. And a couple of small design changes, which I think are there for the better. Now, as you can see, it's quite pretty. It does look like a striking piece of gear. I've had a few people ask me what it actually is because I've never seen it before, which obviously is quite nice. I've got some notes written down here. Sorry, it's my first ever gear review. You have to be patient with me. So if you notice, I don't know if you can see, but it's also got lots of handy instructions about how to set up the ropes, which is obviously very, very good, because of the many ways it can be differently used. It's always a good reminder. But the first thing I'm going to say is it's not a device for beginners. It can work in so many different ways, and there's so many different ways to set it up wrong and use it badly that it's not a beginner device. So if you're coming new to climbing, don't get this. Get something much, much simpler, like an ATC bug or ATC, like a bug or an ATC or something like that. It does have quite complicated setup. However, when you're belaying with it, it does feel good. The rope does thread easily. It takes anything from, and it says so on it, 7.7 mils when you're using half ropes up to 10.5 mils, and that is actually true. It does work well with the lot. Okay, now I've got a bit of a demo set up I was going to use to show you what's going on with this device. So if you let me just chuck a harness on so I can show you how it works properly, I'll go from there. Okay, hopefully you can still see me. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay, now, initial setup, it works like any other belay device. When you're using it in the click up mode, you're threading it down as normal, following the guides or the little instructions on the device itself. Clipping your carabiner onto yourself first is probably the most important thing, and clicking it as before. And much like the Climbing Technology click up, once it's done up, it's designed to be used like a normal device. The rope runs it through really freely, which is good. However, just like before, with a sudden load, it will click up into the clicked up position. Now, that is locked off, and although you shouldn't let go of it, there's going to be no way that's getting pulled through there, which is obviously very good. To release that, just like you do with a click up, you push forwards on the device and you can feed slack through nice and simply, just like that. Okay, you can do that through 2 bits at once. However, I don't know why you'd be using the click up mode for 2 pieces at once, for 2 ropes at once, especially because you'd be using it only for sport and for really solid gear, not for trad climbing, etc. It can also be used like a regular belay device when you're doing trad or dynamic belaying, and that is designed to be done with when it's clipped through the hole at the back. Can you see that just there, rather than down in the click up mode like so? And that works like any other belay device, runs through really smoothly. You can lock it off and it works just like any other belay device. It works really smoothly. It works really well on anything. I've used it on a 9mm rope as well as this, which is a 10.2mm. So on a wide variety of rope widths, it works really, really well. Okay. It's also designed to be used for abseiling. You can do it on single or double abseiling as a regular belay device through the dynamic mode, or you can use it as a self-locking through click-up mode. So if I can just thread this, as you can see, the rope can be a little bit tricky to thread sometimes, but if you've got better fingers than me, you'll probably get on much better. So clip that into my harness, lock it up, and when you're abseiling, it will go into self-locking mode. And as you can see, that is hands-free. There's no rope slippage. It does self-lock as such, and just like before, when you're lowering, you can use the handle, or you can push the device forwards, and that'll lower you down. Okay. Also worth noting, one thing that I wasn't sure about when I first got the device was how well it would compare when ascending a rope when compared to a gree-gree, because of its click-up mode. I don't know if that's going to prevent you from going up a rope as well, but as you can see, you can feed just as much slack through as a gree-gree as you would do on a gree-gree, just as easily. So you can ascend a rope really easily, which is a bonus. Okay. Can be quite tricky to actually free up the device out of the click-up mode, like so, as you can see there, which is one of the negatives of it. Okay. Also, can be used in direct belaying. You would use it only through the dynamic mode, as what I said before. So you'd obviously thread your rope as you would do any normal direct belay, clipping it through there. You will need another carabiner for this. Okay. And just like one of the things I'm going to come to later, it can be very, very difficult to get the right carabiner for this, because of the way it's set up. There's a lot of issues around which carabiners you can use, and you're quite limited sometimes. Okay, so if I was to click that up into a direct anchor, I can belay as normal, bringing someone up, and if they're to fall, just like the ATC guide or reverso, locks off nicely. Okay, releasing it works just the same as the other one. You can pull up on this if you so wish, or what they have done is they've added an extra hole just behind the carabiner, you probably can't see, which you can clip another carabiner to, and you can use that like a lever to push up more effectively on the device, which allows you to have some slack a lot better. Okay. So that's its basic functions covered, and it does exactly what it says in all the adverts, what it should do for that. Okay. Let's just take a couple of bits off. Fantastic. Now, I've been using it for a little while now, and there's a few negatives that I have found about the device. First and foremost, you're very limited on the carabiners you can use with it. Now, it does come with its own specific one. Most annoyingly, it does have a kind of small gate at the bottom to prevent any cross-loading, etc. But that is essential. That does make it quite hard to put on your harness, etc. You've got to do it in the right sequence. You can't just throw it onto your belay loop. You can use almost any carabiner in click-up mode because of the wideness. However, if you're using a wide kind of HMS carabiner like so, it does leave a very fine gap between here, which does make it difficult for it to click up sometimes. So using its own carabiner works really well, using it single or double. You can also use almost any small kind of width of kind of carabiner bar through the direct belay, like so, when you're using it as a direct belay, which is fair enough. However, if you've got big wide HMS carabiners, you might find it sometimes quite difficult to get them in through that small hole, like so. For example, DMM Zodiac, if you were to try and thread that through there, it's going to get caught on that corner, which isn't good, because if you're putting a lot of strain on that, it's only a thin bit of metal, and if that charge does get pulled sideways, you can see how it's not pulling sideways very freely. It could bend the plate of the belay device, which obviously is not a good thing. Okay. In dynamic mode, you have to use pretty much the carabiner that you're given with it, or a few specific others, mostly because it's so wide here across and such a small hole. You've got to be very specific about the carabiner that actually go through there and work well. The only other carabiner I've got that will work just as well, or is a few that have got a wide gate but also fairly flat. For example, a cheap clog one will do it, big HMS, job done, that goes through quite well. However, something like a true screw, that doesn't go through well at all. Too small to fit through. You can't actually do the carabiner up, which isn't any good. DMM Zodiac won't go through very well. You see how that's gone through, but it's not sitting very straight, and it won't work very straight. Not a good idea. And something like an old big D-shaped carabiner, is the angle here is too much for it to fit through and work in there properly. See how it won't sit flat. So you're very limited on the one you can use, which is why I'm guessing Climbing Technology give you that one carabiner. So yeah, you're very limited on the carabiners you can use in dynamic mode. And obviously when you're using the direct belay as well, you've got to use the one carabiner it gives you to go through there, which isn't always a good thing, especially if you're at the top of a route or on a multi-pitch route and you've used the wrong carabiner, or you've dropped this carabiner. You've got to make sure you've got the right one, otherwise you've got this belay device is useless to you. You're going to have to use something like an Italian hitch. Okay. Also, the way it's set up, you have 3 plates, 1, 2 and 3, to get together with a couple of pins here and here, and that's pretty much what holds it together. Now these plates, although are nice and firm, they are a little bit flexible, which is fairly normal, I would imagine. However, if you use a carabiner with that, and for some reason it gets a twisted load or something like that on it, what you're going to be doing is you're going to put a lot of stress on the pins and on the carabiner and the plates. Now if I was to twist that really hard, I can't imagine it would take much force to actually separate these plates. So you've got to be very, very careful when setting it up and when using it in direct belay, as well as when putting carabiners that are not the carabiner it's designed for through there, because that's going to put a lot of twisting on there. Okay. The only other negative I found, I was using this, first time I used it was with a 9.5 as a brand new Beal rope, dry coated, so it was nice and slippy as well. In dynamic mode it worked fantastically. In click up mode I did notice when I was hanging on it and not belaying very dynamically, which is what the click up mode isn't designed to do, the rope itself was slipping through ever so slowly. There was about a centimetre every 5 seconds or so actually slipping through the device. Now that didn't make much difference to me. However, if there was me or someone who is, I don't know, 20 odd stone, or there's a lot of force plus gear hanging on that, I can imagine the slippage would become an issue. It'd become more like a dynamic belay device, or a regular belay device such as the Bug. However, on the flip side, when you're using it to lead belay, unlike the gree where you've got to keep a thumb or keep this mechanism from deploying, which will obviously grab the rope, this on the lead belay works like any other belay device. It's really smooth, really good. In dynamic mode and click up mode is really, really smooth. It does take a bit of force to get it off click up mode as such. If I put a carabiner through there, when it's clicked up it goes into here with a rope in it. To get it off that, what you have to do is you've got to push the belay device into that position, which can be quite tough sometimes. However, it works really well. I wouldn't say that it was as safe as a gree, mainly because when you've got it in a click up mode and it's clicked up, for example like that, all it takes is your body to push against that to then start releasing the rope going through. Okay, so if you're say hanging on a rope, or if you get pulled off your feet into a rock, that's going to push on there and it's going to stop it becoming auto locking. Whereas something like the Gree, if that happens, you've only got to push on a very specific thing and put a lot of force through this lever for that to work. So maybe that is a little bit safer when it comes to auto locking. However, when it comes to abseiling, having a rope, you can get 2 ropes through it, and for that to auto lock while you're abseiling is fantastic. You obviously back yourself up the prusik as you would do normally to be able to have a self-locking abseil. So you can abseil down 10 meters, put a bit of gear in or sort some gear out, so you can almost take hands free without having to tie stuff off all the time, or put rope or knots etc. in the rope. It works really, really well, and that's why I'm most impressed with the fact that you can use the click up mode as a double abseil device, which is fantastic. My overall verdict, I think it's a really good device. It's quite expensive for what it is. However, what it does do is does combine something like the Petzl Reverso or the ATC Guide and the Gree all in one. So if you were to buy them 2 separately, which a lot of people I know have done, you would definitely save a little bit of money getting this. As an all-in-one, I can't fault it. It does everything it's supposed to do. It's very, very versatile. That's the most common word come up in reviews is versatile. It's very, very versatile. Only thing is, it can be a bit of a pain to set up, especially with the carabiner, with this bit here, which it does stop it cross-loading and moving around, which is really essential to stop the plates, etc. twisting. However, it can be a pain to set up on your harness. So if you can find another carabiner it works really well with, then it might be worth using it with that instead. The only other thing as well is this: when you've got the rope set through it in click up mode, the rope will come down, round and back up again. These bits here, they have a really annoying habit. If you're not belaying properly or paying attention, the rope can get snagged on them, or the carabiner can get snagged on them. For example, if I show you here, you see how that pointy bit is in the side, that groove of the carabiner? That has once prevented it clicking up fully when I was belaying someone, and it turned into a regular belay device. I had to put downward pressure on the dead rope for it to work properly, which I mean isn't a bad thing. You do use it like a normal belay device anyway. However, it did, if you were to be lazy and it did do this, it wouldn't self-lock as well as it could. And the only other thing is, depending on which way you've got the carabiner orientated, for example, if you've got it this way, you're belaying as you would do normally, what can happen is, if you've got the rope running to the right hand side and someone's weight on it, what will happen is it'll twist, like so. Now when it's twisted, it's not going to click up very well, and what will happen is it'll do this. You see how it's sitting kind of half up, not fully up, half up, especially with a twist on it. What it does, that way, it means it stops it fully clicking off, which isn't always a good thing. Overall verdict, I like it a lot. I've used it quite a bit. It does work really well, does do everything it says quite well. It's not big, it's not cumbersome, and out of 10, I'd say 8 out of 10 for functionability. Everything works properly. The only downside being is that you're very limited on the carabiners you can use with it, and it can be quite complicated to set up sometimes. So you've got to make sure you set it up in the right order. One really good example of this is if you're using it in the direct belaying mode. So you've got it set up with carabiner hanging here, ropes going through here around your dynamic mode carabiner and back out again. They have added a hole here, which is what I said about adding the lever to release it when it's locked off. Okay, now that works really well as long as you remember to put the carabiner. So, like I said, you've got to be careful what carabiners you go through because it can be quite tricky and quite fiddly. But you've got to remember to put them on in the right order for you to use the lever. If you say forgot to do so, or this carabiner ended up like this, it then becomes useless. This carabiner gets logged, they get twisted, etc., etc. So I think that it's a fantastic belay device if you're using it properly. If you know how to use it and you make sure you've got all the right carabiners for it, fantastic. However, be careful with it, use it properly, and yeah, 8 out of 10. Would I get one again? Yeah, I probably would. Would I get one if I'd already got a guide and a gree? No, it doesn't really supersede them. You might as well just keep using the two. However, it is nice to have it all in one. That's the end of my gear review. Please leave any comments you want to, and I apologise for the shoddy video making. Ta-ra.